I'm feeling a little weird today, but I feel like we can figure this out. I feel like we can have this conversation. I hope. I want to. Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow space blobs and earth blobs and sparkling blobs, or whatever form you want to take. I am open to it all. If you don't want to be a blob, you don't have to be. But if you do feel connected to that, I love it. It makes me smile. I feel like a blob every day of my life. And I'm not fighting that anymore. And probably this Virgo full moon is a great place to explore how we become ourselves in life, how we experience that without all the pressures to perform certain roles and identities, but instead becoming ourselves through the much more spiritual lens. So this Virgo full moon really brings us into the energetics of Pisces season in a very profound and powerful and beautiful way. It's going to really light up that Pisces Virgo conversation, which I love because it is just one of my favorite axes to work with ever in the whole year. It always illuminates something super important for me that I've really been needing. This full moon is going to be extremely empowering and remind us of a lot of the spiritual underpinnings of all the things that we're running around trying to do, kind of take us out of that busyness factor, out of the goal setting factor, and come back to a little bit more of those softer principles. So this is going to be a really great soft landing place, but also a really great perspective shifting moment in the year. We just had that Leo full moon and then Aquarius new moon in the last moon cycle, and those were really different energies. They were quite technicolor, they were quite honest, they were quite expansive, really powerful. Coming into this moon cycle with the Virgo full moon now and then the upcoming Pisces new moon, we're coming back to some integration, some allowing things to land, and kind of coming back to the world of ideas before they're fully formed into nice, concrete, actionable steps, and getting a little bit more in touch with our energetic field and the world of ideas. I am feeling a little bit scattered today as I sit down to chat through this full moon, and at first I wasn't sure I wanted to do it today because I really want to do justice to this conversation. And then I realized that for me, it's really important to just show up the way that I am instead of trying to wait for the day that I feel like I'm the most professional or the most clear cut, because I've realized that for me to keep doing this work, it's really important that I just let myself show up the way that I am. And in fact, I think more of us feel connected that way. I think more of us feel relaxed and supported, and there's a deep honesty to it, which I think is so important, especially if we're going to be talking about a Virgo full moon. So let's get into the details here. I think this is going to be such a nourishing, recharging conversation. I think it's going to give a lot of us a feeling of a deep exhale. So grab your tea, your journal, your art supplies, whatever you like to do while I'm chatting away here, and let's get into this Virgo full moon. So I already mentioned that this full moon is going to light up the Virgo-Pisces axis. Any full moon's going to do that with its oppositional sign, right? Because we've got the sun in one sign and the moon in the other. They're having a conversation. But this particular Virgo full moon, we have a lot of energy over in Pisces opposing this moon energy. So Mercury, Sun, and Saturn are all going to be relatively close together over in Pisces, kind of having this conversation with our moon in Virgo. And that means that this is really the heart and soul of this full moon. This is what we're going to be working with, is this oppositional energy of Pisces and Virgo. So I just wanted to take a minute to explore the Pisces Virgo axis, because the themes in this axis are really important, and most of us are longing for infusions of this energetic quality in our day-to-day, because it's where the relief comes from, it's where the reconnection to spirit comes from, it's where we feel that kind of softness when we come out of answering a whole bunch of emails or trying to control a situation or trying to get our answers. This is the axis of faith, of deep coming home to spirit. Of course, when we think about Pisces, we're thinking about that really watery, oceanic sense of belonging in the great vast sea of consciousness. And it's also about coming home to that vastness. It's coming home to that deep sense of belonging. It takes us out of all the ideas of accomplishing things, being somebody in the world, expecting things out of ourselves, and coming back to those really deep principles of allowing what we dream of, what we long, what we care about to be our guiding light in life, but also to have moments of contemplation, to have moments of just sitting with our dreaming self, with our meditative self, with the self that isn't so busy in the world. Piscean energy isn't as connected to the goings on of the world and the running around of the world. And that's a beautiful thing, because we also need to sometimes have that different perspective that isn't about what we're accomplishing and who we think we need to be, but is connected much more to those spiritual principles. Virgo is also deeply spiritual. And for me, Virgo is the place where we long to translate and create spirit. This is the place where all of our longings to make something that we feel when we have a really powerful dream or a really powerful image in meditation, or just a sense that we carry with us through life. How do we translate that into our day-to-day? How do we translate that into the way that we give to others? How do we translate that into a poem or a piece of artwork? I know we often think of artists as being maybe Taurus or Leo or Aquarians, right? But I think actually Virgo is one of the most artistic energies that we'll work with as an archetype. It's a powerful archetype that has to do with this idea of translating our deep knowing of spirit into the world and helping us do that. Because Virgo is also very deeply tied to the acknowledgement that we are both spirit and matter, that these are interlinked, inextricably interlinked, and that they inform each other constantly. And Virgo is very much about the conversation that's going on at all times within that field of knowing. Because Virgo and Pisces are both about healing, about coming back home to spirit, coming back home to what is truest. This is often a place where we can integrate a lot of new information and understand, translate, process it, and understand how to work with it at a deeper level. I feel like that last moon cycle with the Leo full moon and the Aquarius new moon, we got all this new information. It was just like thrown in the path. And this cycle is about understanding how to incorporate that into our field of vision, into our energetic field, understanding how to do that in a sustainable way, and starting to understand how we're going to be translating these new elements slowly but gently into our lives. And that's what this Virgo full moon is really going to be about. It's an acknowledgement of what we are longing to be doing in this world. How we are longing to take the skills and gifts we have and make them something in the world. And this is differentiated from the career we're going to have or the way we're going to make ripples on social media. It pulls us out of this idea of how are we going to get our space in the attention economy? How are we going to get our space in the economy of the world? And much more about like, what do we really long to do? Is it walking our dog extra time? Is it making a beautiful, great piece of artwork that maybe no one will ever see, but it doesn't really matter? When we take ourselves out of all the things that we need to accomplish and more into what we long to translate into the world, that's going to be the question at hand. But the conversation piece that I think is most interesting about this very powerful oppositional conversation between Pisces and Virgo during this Virgo full moon is that I've noticed there are some notes about this full moon being that it's kind of push and pull, that you might feel a bit like, oh, I want to do this over here. And then also a little bit like, no, I'm going to shut down a little bit and hold back. And that you won't really know whether to stay or to go, and to push yes or to push no. And, you know, maybe that'll be part of it, right? Like, I think I've mentioned this recently a couple of times, but it's so important that as we're growing and changing form, that we have moments of expansion and moments of contraction, and we're supposed to have that breath within our creative process. So you can look at oppositional energy like that. But I also think that sometimes we get a little confused about something that illuminates each other and something being at odds, something being at war. Right? I think sometimes when we're having these conversations about oppositions, it almost feels like we're getting set up to have like this internal conflict within ourselves. And that's where I kind of want to explore the subtleties here, because I want to get us out of the either or thinking that either you have to be saying yes to this brilliant illumination of something and no to something else, or that you have to feel like you're split up into parts. Like, here's the part of you that's ready to go and wants to do this path over here, and here's the part of you that wants to go over here. And kind of have a moment where we recognize that these parts are actually having deep conversations already in our subconscious, in our dreams, in our energetic state, and that they're actually informing each other and working together. Oppositions will illuminate different elements that we may need attention, right? Full moons do tend to illuminate what we are needing to really pay attention to, where our sight needs to go, where our intuitive lantern needs to direct its gaze, right? That's what is so powerful about full moons and oppositions like this. But it's not just to show us where we have an internal conflict. It's also to show us how there are parts of ourselves that need communication, that are longing for a deeper understanding with each other so that they can work together. So for me, some of the questions that come up at the heart of this beautiful Virgo full moon are, what would honoring the part of you that needs rest, time with spirit, time to incorporate visions, time to sleep in the afternoon, time to step away from the busyness of it all, how would that help you to move in the world more when you honor that part of yourself? How would that help life be more sustainable? I think so often, we are taught to feel guilty that we want more time to rest and dream. Everything in culture says you're lazy. If you're doing that, you probably are doing something wrong, or you're not thinking about the suffering of others, which is a dichotomy that is so false. It's hard to even wrap my mind around it. And a lot of us are taught like it's a little bit lazy, a little bit naughty to honor the part of ourselves that wants to spend more time with spirit. And of course, there's a shadow side to that. We can be escapist. We can disconnect from the world, and that's another conversation, but most of us are struggling to give ourselves even the smallest bit of honoring of this. And just a recognition that in honoring that, we often are able to show up much more deeply and clearly and vividly and powerfully in life. Like truly, when we give ourselves these moments, we're not looking at our phones and we're allowed to just sit and listen to birdsong, sit quietly and close our eyes, take time to be with spirit. These are the tools that allow us to show up. So how can we honor it? What would happen in life if we truly honored this truth, this deep knowing that we have within us? And on the same wavelength here, how would creating some small things in the physical world, how would allowing yourself the permission to show up in gentle, beautiful, translating ways that is the Virgo energetic, help the part of your non-physical that you want to express in this life? How, when we make those little movements toward what we want to translate into being, because I really do feel like that is what life is. It is just this beautiful translation constantly going on. When we honor that we have things we do actually long to translate, we do actually long to see put into the world, how does that help our spirit? How does that help our inner dreamer that often feels frustrated trying to translate those visions into the world? How can these two things help each other more and more and more and work together? How are they longing to interact, in fact, when they often feel like they have to be put in these separate boxes? Oh, sometime I'll be a dreamer over here, but right now I need to get this mundane stuff done over here. What happens when we stop trying to separate them? What happens when we stop trying to create kind of this division within ourselves? A lot of times, that push and pull energy is because it feels like we have to have these things separated out, and they can't be in the same field. They can't be on the same team, but they are. And they're always conversing, whether or not we're consciously engaged with it or not. So that's really the core of this full moon. It's an engaging with what wants to be translated into the world. I have one last little point, but I'm going to start shuffling these cards here because I've already been rambling on about this. We also, in the background of this beautiful full moon, we still have some energy moving over in Aquarius. We have Venus and Mars conjunct in Aquarius. And Venus and Mars meeting up is always a beautiful moment. For me, it amplifies this idea. How are we combining ideas? How are we combining disparate concepts? How are we allowing different parts of ourselves to be in conversation and realize they're trying to work together? They are not as at odds as we believe that they are. There is something really beautifully new getting created around this time, around this Pisces season. in the wake of Aquarius season, in the wake of these new energetic waves that are moving through, there are new ideas landing, and the Virgo full moon here is really trying to get us to really vividly see and feel energetically what that is. So it's a powerful one. I think this is one that I feel like I'm just going to sit really quietly and just listen a lot. I am going to be doing an activation over on my Patreon for my magic seekers and magic makers. We are going to just get a little deeper into those questions about those deeper parts of ourselves. And I'm going to just be helping us kind of visualize and journal through that full moon energy. So if you're interested in getting a little extra support, I'd love to see you there. Plus, we are going to be doing a really big tarot journey starting on March 8th, if you're interested in working with tarot the way that I like to do it. Speaking of which, King of Pentacles. There's that earthy influence. I'm going to pull 2 cards for this conversation because I want to keep it really simple. As always, when I'm pulling cards, I'm never wanting to make a prediction. Hierophant. So this is so interesting as I'm sitting here with these cards. The King of Pentacles and the Hierophant are both very tied to Taurus. And it's very interesting to have these kind of figures of authority showing up in our reading, right? Because we've been talking about kind of the spiritual, philosophical side of things, that what really matters in life isn't the running around, isn't the accomplishing things, isn't the gaining of identities, but is in sitting in the stillness and coming back home to the simplicity and the rest and the dreaming, and how powerful that really is. And then we get these 2 very potent energies. These are both very centered energies, right? They're very earthy. We are having an earthy full moon here. So there is this sense of coming in to the ground, coming in to the world, giving birth into the world, creating into the world. But there's a very specific flavor with both of these when it comes to that idea of translating. And one of the biggest themes that comes up actually for both of these cards is stepping into your own ability to choose to be in your spiritual knowing and to give yourself that empowerment. So often it feels like we are not allowed to let ourselves stand fully in that because there are responsibilities, because maybe we're missing a step, because I don't have time today and I have other things I need to do. And what if I just let myself believe in some of this more beautiful energetic qualities and then I never do anything again in life and I'm just sloppy and I'm irresponsible and all these things. There's all these ways that we cut ourselves off over and over again from that deep knowing, from that deep coming home to our belonging to something so much greater, and how that informs how we move. And these cards are a very kind of stern calling back to those deep knowings. And I think I mean that in a beautiful way. If you've ever read Dante's Divine Comedy, when he gets to paradise, he is reunited with Beatrice. And she is very harsh with him, actually. She's just always like, snap out of it. Snap out of this game that you keep thinking you have to play in and where you're trying to analyze it all. And she's just not having it. She's like, you need to just get with the program here and be present with what you're witnessing. Let yourself be present with your emotional realness and with the fact that you're expanding into this new space. And I think that's what both the King of Pentacles and the Hierophant are speaking to here. Another thing to keep in mind with these 2 is that these are very much cards that are speaking to processes that take a little bit of time, like a boomerang, like a really, really far-reaching boomerang that you throw out with your energy. The things that we're starting to see coming through here during this Virgo full moon are a lot of them things that may take a little bit of time to fully form, like a garden, when you plant some of those seeds late in autumn and then they have to winter over, and then there's certain types of plants that need that before they can blossom in the spring and come to full maturation in the summer. That's kind of what these cards are talking about. There's a bigger thing happening. So many of us are going to be having those ideas, having those downloads, having those senses of something, knowing something very, very deeply, and also knowing that we're going to need to be in the process of allowing that to come to life slowly but surely. And these cards really speak to that as well. And finally, what I would say about both of these energies is that they remind us that things that take time to come into being, just like an art practice, getting into your book and doing your studies every day, or into the practice of any deep skill and any path in life, including reconnecting to spirit, we have to keep showing up consistently to the things that are really calling for us. These cards are just a reminder that it's the slow, tender showing up in small moments consistently through time that will start to help us translate spirit in the way that really matters. It's not about burning ourselves out. It's not about forcing ourselves to get it all done this week, this month, but it is about the small showing up, that doing something is doing everything, and that those movements have a deep sense of respect and honor and depth to them that I think sometimes we feel, once again, also like it's not enough. It is enough. It is enough. And the more that we feel that relaxation and that trust and that depth within that, the more likely we will keep showing up, right? The more likely we will keep unfolding that mystery, keep being that poet and that artist that is translating spirit. That's really what this Virgo full moon wants us to do. It just wants us to take that moment to deeply surrender and connect and move and translate, and just choosing that and knowing that and feeling that breath and allowing that to bring us back to life to some extent. I know for me, it has been a really deep and powerful winter so far. Wow. I need this full moon to kind of come back into that deep honoring, deep commitment, deep illumination of what really matters, what is really making our bones sing with life again. And I'm really hoping that you will also be feeling some of that supportive, beautiful energy. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a beautiful visual journaling session with my patrons over on Patreon, where I'm able to just offer up a lot of deep support and space and quiet. It's a really nice space. Like, there's no ads on the videos. You just get to come and enjoy and rest there. We have our Zoom gatherings with my Magic Makers group twice a month on Sundays, and we just explore concepts and ideas together. It's beautiful. And starting on March 8th, I am beginning a journey through the major arcana. We are going to take many weeks to slowly unpeel that onion, come back into our intuition, understand our deep undergirding magic. And I hope that that journey will not only empower us to use tarot in some new ways, but also to unfold some of the mystery that might be going on in your own life. So I'd love to see you over on Patreon for all of those journeys. You can check the description box for how to join. And I would love to see you. I also love it when you're here. This space would be nothing without you all being here, and just knowing that you're with me means the world, especially right now as I'm going through such a powerful, strange season of my life. So thank you so much for being here. I will see you all for our Pisces new moon coming up, and so many more powerful conversations. What would you like to see explored here in this space? Where are you really longing for support? In your creative journey, in your journey of mystery, in your healing journey, in your becoming yourself journey, what's coming up for you? I would really love to offer as much softness and safety and support as possible that I can in this space. So let me know what's coming up for you right now. I would love to hear from you. I hope you have a beautiful full moon in Virgo, and I will see you all again so very, very soon. Take care.